Hey Wargamers, it's time for another Patreon list review. If you want me to review your army list, go ahead, follow the link in the description below to my Patreon. Even if you are just subscribed or just supporting me at $1 a month, you can participate in this series by sending me army lists, and then I will give you feedback on that. So yeah, this week we are looking at a well-rounded Tau list, 2,000 points, 2 detachments, pretty straightforward. Just doesn't want to be spammy. So I'm going to try a little bit different format this week just because time is tight. Basically I am going to discuss it here just as normal, but I'm just going to put the list in the description below. So we're not just going to be looking at an army list for the whole time. It'll just be like this, like normal. So all right, so the basic, the original list, like I said, in the description below, you can follow along, is 2 detachments. It's a Battalion Detachment consisting of a Fireblade and an Ethereal. The Ethereal has an Honor Blade and Hover Drone. And then 3 units of Fire Warriors, a strike team. 2 of them are 10-man and 1 of them is 11-man. The elite is, or elite squads, elite section. Wow, all right. For elites, we have a unit of Stealth Suits, 3 Stealth Suits, no upgrades, and then 2 gun drones with that unit, and then a unit of 3 Crisis Battlesuits with 6 gun drones. Each Crisis Suit has a fusion blaster and 2 plasma rifles. For fast attack, we have 2 units of Pathfinders. They're basically stock Pathfinders with a pulse accelerator drone in each of them, so that's 2 pulse accelerator drones. A flyer, which is the Sunshark bomber, and that's stock. And then for the second detachment, we have a Supreme Command detachment that consists of a commander with 4 fusion blasters and 2 gun drones, a commander in a Cold Star battlesuit with advanced targeting systems, and then long strike with gun drones, a railgun, and 2 seeker missiles. And in that detachment, we also have a Lord of War, which is a storm surge with burst cannons, advanced targeting, cluster rocket systems, 4 destroyer missiles, and then the pulse driver cannon. So basically stock with advanced targeting system and selecting the pulse driver cannon. So that's the basic list. Things that I like about this list, again, it's well-rounded. It's not super spammy or anything like that. I like the balance between the offensive capability in the commander, in long strike, and the storm surge. All those seem real solid. I like the inclusion of stealth suits and crisis suits, and I also like the inclusion of fire warriors and a Fireblade as a way to take out weaker units. So you have this kind of partitioning that I've talked about in other lists before, where you have things that are dedicated to taking out heavy units, things that are more versatile, that are taking out heavy infantry or light infantry, somewhere in between. In this list, that's going to be like the crisis suits. And then you have the guys that take care of the infantry, which is the strike teams and the Fireblade and Ethereal and the cluster rocket system on the storm surge. So this list partitions nicely, and I like that. Things that concern me a little bit are there's just some inefficiencies that I see in it. I've talked about this before, that I'm not a huge fan of accelerator drones, but if that's kind of the play style that works here, that's fine. I would only take 1 of those, I think. The Ethereal himself, I think he's good. He does lend a lot of strength to infantry-based armies, but the majority of this list is either going to be upfield or in the storm surge. There's actually not that many infantry units here. There's not that many points invested in infantry, and so I'm not super sold on the Ethereal in this case. The stealth team is only 3-man, and I really would worry about that getting erased pretty quickly. But other than that, I think it's a pretty good list. So let's take a look at what I changed in the list and why I changed it. Okay, so again, check in the description below. I have my list there as well. I've stuck to the same format in terms of points and detachments. It's still a Battalion Detachment. It's still a Supreme Command Detachment. And a lot of the components are very similar because, again, I did like how the list partitioned and how I imagined it would work on the battlefield. I've used lists very similar to this, and it's worked out fairly well. So on the Battalion Detachment, I started off with a Fireblade, that's the same, but I switched the Ethereal out for a Commander with Fusion Blasters. The reason for that is just there wasn't a ton of infantry. I like the Ethereal, but he's not necessarily doing a ton with the army. He can make the units that are in the army list durable, but like I said, a lot of the list is actually going to be deep striking up into the enemy or is in the storm surge, and so for a point-by-point basis, I kind of want to play around and see what else I could make happen. So I dropped the Ethereal and took in another commander just because you really do want something that's going to pack that punch, and especially with a strikey list like this, like a deep strikey list like this, we want to have something that's going to make sure the job gets done right away, and having another fusion commander in there helps make that happen a little bit more. So there's that. For the troops, I actually bumped up each of the Fire Warrior squads a little bit. I also gave one of the Shas'vre a Markerlight just because I had a few extra points left over, and we wanted to have a little bit more offensive capability here. Really, it just came down to I had a few points left, and I wanted to find a place to put them, so Fire Warriors is where they went. For the elite section, it looks pretty darn similar. For the stealth teams, I was really concerned about them getting blown off the table right away, so I did move some things around in order to get another stealth suit in there. So we increased the durability of that unit by 33%. They still have a homing beacon, they're still burst cannons, and I think they're they're really important part of this list, right? Because they are the delivery vehicle for either a fusion commander to get up close and personal, or this crisis suit squad to get in there nice and personal too. So they're a critical component of the list, I think, and so we want to make sure that they survive. So I bumped up their number a little bit here. The crisis team, again, I had some wiggle room in the points, not enough to get another stealth suit on the board or to add like a shield generator to the storm surge, but enough that I could make these crisis suits into crisis bodyguards. I generally don't think crisis bodyguards are that amazing, but for a few extra points, we're able to use these bodyguards to take wounds off of the commanders that you have in the list. So I like that adds some extra viability here. And I think really the way that this list is going to function best is if you have those stealth suits go up one side of the board, they drop their homing beacon, you drop the either a commander or ideally I think probably the crisis team really down in front of that homing beacon up nice and close. You drop the two fusion commanders behind them, and that way the commanders are shielded from shooting, but you also have these crisis suits and drones that can take wounds for the commanders. So plus the stealth suits are still there. That's a lot of firepower. You have the drones, you have the crisis suits, you have the commanders, you have the stealth suits. It's a party. You also notice that I dropped the drones from the stealth team because, again, they are a really easy component of the list to just take out and get kill points. So I dropped them and used those points elsewhere. Fast attack. This is pretty similar. The main difference here is that I did drop one of the pulse accelerator drones for the same reason I dropped the drones from the stealth team. It's an easy kill point. These guys, really are going to be deployed in line with the Fire Warriors in order to get the most out of them and out of the Fireblade, and previously the Ethereal, but he's gone. So so you're going to have Pathfinders in a group with Fire Warriors. So you really only need one. You really only need one pulse accelerator drone if you want to use that. So there's that. The Supreme Command Detachment looks pretty darn similar. It's a commander. I dropped the drones off of him for the same reason that I dropped the drones off everybody else. Easy kill points, and this guy is going to be dropping in with support around him from the Crisis Bodyguards and from the gun drones. So he doesn't need to necessarily bring his own. The Cold Star, again, you know, he doesn't have a really well-defined role in this list, but I like that he's there to grab some objectives and do some interesting stuff. So he stayed the same. Long Strike stayed the same. Storm Surge stayed the same. I would have liked to give him a shield generator, but I just didn't see a way to do that very well. So that's the list. I think it will do fairly well. It still maintains that partitioning. It's not super spammy. Yes, you do have a few commanders in there. I added one extra, but for the most part, it's pretty darn similar. I removed the Sun Shark because it just didn't seem to be doing as much. You have a lot of anti-infantry stuff already, and the Sun Shark, you know, more or less did that too. And I wanted to use the points elsewhere. So I think this list will be a little bit more mobile, a little bit more consistently effective, and you know, basically takes a solid list and just tweaks it in a way that I think improves it just a little bit more. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and of course, happy wargaming.